Well, guys, I think we all know at this point that marriage is, declining, and it's been declining for decades. So we got one here from Man Guide, proof going their own way is working. Only 6.5 out of 1,000 men are getting married. Cry harder.
uh, 9 years together, never got a ring, never moved out, never moved in together. I didn't really understand, I didn't understand what was happening. So through those frustrations came up a lot of different petty arguments. But really the root of the cause was, why isn't there any commitment?
Yeah, exactly. That is true though. In relationships, a lot of times you have these little petty arguments. It's like, what are we even arguing about this for? And then you realize, like, when you dig deeper, oh, there's an actual bigger problem under the surface. It just blows my mind though that women will stay in these relationships where it's like they're not getting commitment, and yet they seem to just stay. 9 years, 10 years, 5 years. It's like, well, if it's so bad, then why are you staying in that relationship? I don't understand.
I definitely want to take the next step. If I've been with you for 9+ years, clearly I want a future with you. Clearly I want to, marry you, have kids. When's that coming?
Right, but you have to remember, you guys were dating for such a long time when you were so young. So it's not like you were dating 9 years when you were in your 30s or mid-20s even.
True.
In a couple of years, you were even underage. So, that's,
when did you expect?
Well.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if you were so young, when would you expect the ring? Did you expect?
I didn't know. I didn't have a timeline as to when it was going to happen. I just
you
wanted to see that it was going to happen soon. As soon as we made like 7 years or 8 years, we were already.
So you would have been like 24, 23.
Yeah.
Don't get married.
Big mistake that you make. Big mistake. Enjoy the money first. Buy what you want and do everything you want.
Do you know anybody who's happily married?
No, nobody happily married.
Come on, that's
nobody
not true.
happily married. I
Oh
don't
my
see
God, this
nobody
guy.
happily married. I might be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I might be wrong, because 9 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10 people is unhappy with married. So what the fuck you gonna get married for? It don't make no sense. You have 1 million people in the world and it's 99.99 name.
Hey, you better watch it for your wife hear it.
Fuck my wife. Start with she.
Oh,
first.
shit.
Start with she first. She make me afraid of woman, because she want every blood clot thing. She want everything. No, don't marry. Marriage is not good for nobody in this world. Nobody.
That's your wife calling you.
Nice fun.
This poor guy is going to go on blast on social media. His wife is going to see it, and she's going to divorce him.
Marriage is a complete scam if you're a man. 50% of all marriages end in divorce. Second marriages have a 66% chance of ending in a divorce. And a third marriage, lucky number 3, thinking this is the one, have a 75% chance of ending in a divorce. So why would you take a 50-50 chance at losing half your money, half your wealth to a girl? There is literally no upside for a man financially. Now you're probably thinking, you gotta find your soulmate, you gotta find the love of your life. I guarantee you, if I go to any wedding out here and I ask the bride and groom, is this your soulmate? Do you love each other? They're going to say yes, they're going to stay married for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, exactly.
10 years down the line, 50% of them are going to end in a divorce, and the man's gonna lose half his stuff.
Yep. Yeah, he's totally got it right. When you're in the beginning of your relationship, it's the honeymoon phase, right? Everything's great. But then when the kids come, when, the financial issues start, when, anything else starts to happen that rocks the boat, then you get to see the actual, the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation is just most people are not going to get married, and it's not going to be for life, And it depends on what your definition of a successful marriage even is. It depends. It's different for every person. Maybe it's just you stay together long enough to raise the kids, and then afterwards it's not. But this whole idea of lifelong soulmate kind of thing, that's not even really reality. There's very few people, besides maybe very older generations, who were able to pull that off. And I just don't see that happening very often these days. The other thing is, as a man, women, 9 times out of 10, well, not 9 times out of 10, but 2 times out of 3 are the ones who file divorce, right? So right here, do women file 70, 80% of divorces in the U.S.? It's not as quite as high as 70%, but it's close. According to Stanford professor Dr. Michael Rosenfield's 2017 study, about 2 in 3 divorces, or 66% to 69%, of United States divorces are wanted by the wife. The same is true in Europe and Australia. So the 2017 study that they did showed that it was about 2 and 3. So the majority of the time, right, the probability says that if you get married, she's going to want to file the divorce. And so you don't have control over what she does. So if you're legally married and she decides, hey, which is most likely the case if you do get divorced, then she's going to be the one probably filing it on you. So I just think that that's a bad deal. I think it's a really bad deal, and I don't really see the benefit for men in getting legally married. I literally don't know. Like, if there's anything you can think of, if there's anything that you can think of that there's a benefit for a man in today's society, a young man in today's society, to get married to some of these women, then let me know down in the comments, because I'm honestly interested to see what the idea is here for people getting married. And the way I've always looked at it is, just because you're not legally married and you may not have a contract with the government, doesn't mean that you can't have a committed relationship or you can't have kids. I don't see why you couldn't do that. So I'm not sure what the really advantage is for men at all.
Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree?
How much did your wedding cost?
Well, our first wedding was like maybe $85.
We woke up and eloped.
We hired a minister from Google. Then
You
we
guys are smart.
tattoo rings.
Yeah, that was the most expensive part.
Then we had a
Tattoo.
Domino's
That's an
wedding
interesting
night.
idea.
Our Chihuahua was actually the official at our wedding. He was the only person there.
Yeah.
How much was our wedding budget?
I think it was $100,000.
The real budget was probably between
What?
$30,000 and $40,000.
Yeah.
We spent probably between
$100K,
$50,000
bro?
and $55,000.
$35,000.
Did
Dude,
you
I
save
cannot
money
imagine
on
that.
anything?
We wanted a very popular music group, but
Uh-huh.
it was expensive. It was $20,000, and I sung by myself. It was $0.
It was in Russia.
It was, I think, 55,000. Was
Dude.
that about how much you were expecting?
So this is crazy, man. Like, these marriages, these weddings are literally the price of like the down payment of a house. or half of the cost of a house. Imagine spending $100K, $50K on a wedding. What? Dude, that just blows my mind just thinking about that. Bro, this is not, I can see, bro. Not in this economy. Not the average American's not going to be doing that shit anymore. No way. It's not feasible. You can't do it. There's no way you can afford to do that. Because think about it. Now you got your student loan debt because you went to college, right? You got that. Who knows, tens of thousands of dollars there. Then you got, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 depending on your wedding. Then you got that in terms of debt. Now you've got to, buy a house, which puts you in more debt. Then you have kids, which is more debt. So by the time you're like 30, 40 years old, you could have like $1 million in debt just from following this path, and then you're just enslaved to your job for the rest of your life.
Our budget was like 50 to 60. I think initially it was 40, then we realized in DC area that's not really feasible for what
That's crazy.
we were wanting in a wedding.
What made you go over budget? Maybe the venue?
The venue and the food.
In the event of a married couple divorcing, men only get custody of their children 10% of the time, but are always responsible for paying child support and alimony. Many men complain that courts send the message that fathers are not essential to raising children beyond the point of paying child support.
Yeah, exactly. And look where our society is now because of that. Look at where our society is with all the single moms raising all these kids by themselves, and look at what we have. Kids out here on the streets running around, rioting. It's just like complete degradation of our culture and the collapse of the West, and it's just horrible thing to see, man. So yeah, I would definitely recommend avoiding that. And this article right here, the U.S. marriage rates hit a new record low. This article came out April 29th, 2020. So that was that either right before or right during the C-19 that happened. So it says here, data released yesterday shows wedding bells are growing ever fainter in the states across America. The decline in marriage can be seen in the data even before any potential impact of the coronavirus, which is expected to lower the numbers even further due to social distancing related delays. So, okay, this must have been, just as it got started, I think, because it was 2019 and then 2020, so it just started. According to the latest data from the National Center for Health Statistics, marriage rates hit an all-time low in 2018. The most recently recorded year, the national marriage rate fell from 6.9 to 6.5 marriages per 1,000 people from 2017 to 2018. The dip was first noticeable change in a fairly stable trend over the past decade, following a long decline starting in the mid-1980s. As recently as 2001, the national rate was 8.2 marriages per 1,000 people. So apparently in 2001, you had 8.2, and now we're all the way down to 6.5. And you can see the graph here, which shows, 1900, the Great Depression going down, obviously between the wars, that obviously brought it way down. And then it skyrockets after the war, and then collapses, literally collapses, and then kind of starts trending up, and now it's just completely crashed again now. 6.5 marriages out of 1,000 people. And, really, I think this is also due to the internet and people just waking up to the fact of not doing it, because a lot of times, the older guys, they'll be like, they don't even protect the younger guys. Like, a lot of the older people in your family, you may have heard before, will be like, oh, man, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? And all this stuff. And it's like, dude, why do you want, and they're divorced, and yet they're wondering why or when you're going to get married, yet they've been divorced. And it's like, that makes no sense. So I think a large part of this is due to the internet and the message being spread to men to avoid this kind of situation, because it's not fair, and it's not right. It just doesn't make any sense.
A prenup?
Yes, a prenup is the best decision you can do.
Why are you getting a prenup done?
Protect yourself.
It's for a divorce claim and not for a marriage. Get off your phone.
Wow, she's saying a prenup is for a divorce, not for a marriage?
Why are you getting a prenup claim?
Because it's the smartest thing you can do.
Why do we have this?
All right, yeah, so no, the thing about prenups, man, it's not the smartest thing that you can do. The smartest thing you can do is not get legally married at all. That's the smartest thing that you can do. A lot of times prenups, there's always these sort of loopholes that you can use. Oh, I signed it under duress or whatever, and it ends up being voided in court. So I would not trust prenups, to be honest with you. I wouldn't even mess with prenups. It just makes the whole situation way more complicated. Just tell the girl that you're with or the woman that you're with from the get-go, look, I'm not the type of guy to get married. If you want to have a traditional wedding, a traditional legal marriage, find somebody else, because that's not me. And you got to stick by that. You got to stick by what you believe. If you do, look, if you want to get legally married and run that risk of getting divorced and having her divorce you, that's your choice. You can do that. But I'm personally not interested in taking that risk. I don't think there's any reason to. So the reality of the situation is prenups, sometimes, yeah, they work. Sometimes, no, they don't. So I think the smartest thing you can do is actually just completely avoid the entire situation.
Because if it doesn't work out, you're going to take all his stuff.
It's a prenup. That's what you do when you get married.
Exactly.
Prenuptial agreement.
A prenup is for when you get divorced, claim, and not for when you get married.
Wow.
It is assuming that we're going to
That's so wrong.
Married in case you get divorced.
No, this means that you want us to get a divorce eventually.
Bro.
Oh my God. See, this is the thing with women. They always jump to the sort of conclusions and like the feeling side of it. I don't see why is she so concerned about him getting a prenup? That's what I want to know. Why is she so worried about him getting a prenup? Like, it protects both parties, right? Unless she's trying to take advantage of him, what would be the reason why she doesn't want a prenup? It doesn't suggest that you are going to be divorced, but statistically, you probably will end up divorced. So it's a good thing to accept that as a statistic and stop being like, oh, I'm going to be the outlier. I'm going to make it work. And then 10 years down the road, if you're lucky, whatever.
You see how guilty she sounds? She clearly wants all his money.
Commitment that is related to marriage.
You can't trust in any of them.
Let's just talk.
No, I'm just so angry. I cannot believe that you did this.
Yes, because you want his stuff.
The problem is, Slim, is that you're assuming that we're going to get a divorce. Okay?
This is manipulation.
Everything that means that
wow.
Actually, not okay. It's just a...
So that's just an example of, trying to introduce a prenup into a relationship. Sometimes that doesn't work. And again, if you can learn this information now, if you're a really young guy, say you're 18, 19, you're in your teens or you're really early 20s, this is the information you can take right now and just be like, okay, I'm not getting legally married in the United States. I'm not dealing with any of this. So you're going to let girls know up front when if you get into an LTR long-term relationship that this is not what I'm doing, because you don't want to waste their time either, right? If you don't want to waste someone's time and not be aligned. So just make it clear from the beginning, look, I'm not looking for that. That's not what I'm about, right? And then if she decides to stay with you, that's her choice. That's up to her to decide. But I do think it would be unfair to kind of string a woman along and just say, hey, yeah, maybe we'll get married. Maybe we'll get married. If you know deep down in reality that you don't want to get married, then just make it clear from the get-go and stick by that. Stick by it, stand your ground on it, and stand on what you believe.